What's voodoo? If we don't understand it, it falls into the evil pot. A doll is a tool of sympathetic magic. It may sound weird, but it's everyday life for us. That is how voodoo survived.
Mambo Brandi, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve. How you been?
I've been great. I've got to let the audience know, first of all, where we met, just to let them know before we get into the conversation. At the last speakeasy that we had that was in New Orleans, we ended with you coming into the room and speaking to my crowd on voodoo, because you are a high priestess of voodoo. And I'm telling you, my crowd, to say they were uncomfortable, and they've been in some uncomfortable situations before, but they were definitely uncomfortable when you came in, and they were in love as you left. You did a fantastic job. So let's jump right at the beginning. I'm going to ask you one very simple question. What is voodoo?
Voodoo, first of all, that's a big question, and I'd love to give you a simple answer, but it depends on who you ask. It is, for some, it's a religion. For others, it's a spiritual path or a spiritual practice. For some, they'll just call it a tradition. For some, they'll call it their way of life. But it is a religion, and one of the world's oldest. It's been maligned and clobbered by, decades of misinformation in movies, in books, the media. What's really cool is for a while now, practitioners who have been in this, like me for a really long time, are able to tell our own stories and not have others kind of writing our narratives for us. We're able to speak for ourselves and say, no, we're not speaking about voodoo from the outside. We're speaking about voodoo from the inside. And back to what is voodoo, whether it is a religion or spiritual path to a person personally, it is a way to connect with spirit, a way to serve the community through spirit, and I guess a different way to perceive the world instead of just what is right here and now. We are aware that there are things going on that we can't see. Instead of getting freaked out or scared about that, we accept it and we learn from it, and we listen for spirit and the messages from spirit through a lot of things: dreams, nature, signs. And it may sound weird to someone who isn't a part of it, but it's everyday life for us. Like bumblebee flies up to me and looks me in the eyes. I know that's a certain spirit that's crossed over. Mama Margaret, love you, miss you. She's got a message. I deal with it. I just know this is a part of my life. And I tell you something, that the vibe I got from you is that, well, one of the many vibes about your powerhouse nature I got from you was that I think you know that one of the real devils is second guessing yourself. And so instead of like, is this Bumblebee Mama Margaret? What does this really mean? If you just accept and stop wasting time second guessing, is this real? Is it not? If you just accept it for what it is, or what it is to you, what it is to me, and receive the message, then you're moving right along to putting the message into action instead of spending, hours in an existential crisis about what does the bumblebee mean? Is this real? Is it? No, just accept, yes, it's her. Yes, she's got a message. What's the message? Moving right along. Don't waste time in, is this weird? Is it real? No, just get the message, move along. And guess what? The messages have been good. They've been timely and valid and helpful. And because I didn't sit there questioning them, I took it and I applied it, and I was able to move along with my life and not waste a bunch of time second guessing this wonderful message. I think you can relate.
I can relate. And I think that was one of the best things of you being there. You actually were able to allow us to relate and understand a little bit more of voodoo, because quite simply, you called it out right at the beginning, and you've just kind of like led a little bit to it in this opening. Voodoo is a there's so much myth and Hollywood around it. We think that everyone in voodoo runs around like a skull mask and a top hat, like they're out of some kind of James Bond movie.
Live and let
It's
die,
people.
right?
Oh yeah, but why is it that voodoo has become? Hey, that's what it is. It's all about the devils in a top hat. And when I met you and when you conversed with us, and got to give a shout out to your store, Voodoo Authentica in New Orleans.
Thank you.
Brilliant place to go and hang out and to look through.
Did you enjoy
But there's
yourself there?
Oh, I loved it. But as you mentioned when we were speaking, there's so many myths and misconceptions of what you are. And the beautiful thing about when you conversed with our people was you said, hey, you understand myth and misconception. As entrepreneurs, doesn't matter what industry you're in, you're always fighting in the battle of people understanding what it is you really do. So why has voodoo got so twisted over the years?
Well, there are several reasons. I'm glad you made that connection, though, with, entrepreneurs, and everyone can relate to the idea of being, having misconceptions surrounding them, what they do. So, yeah, you're right. That was such a relatable moment, during the speakeasy. But first of all, voodoo came to the New World via the slave trade. So it ended up anywhere that enslaved people were taken, whether that be New Orleans, Brazil, Cuba, Haiti. So think about it. When what is giving you our spirituality and our stories and our culture are what give us a lot of our personal power. So when you are trying to enslave others, what do you want to take away from them? Their personal
Right.
power,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
a way to do that is to demonize their beliefs,
Ah.
to make everyone fear them, make not just fear them, but even more than that, to see them as less than. This isn't civilized. This isn't Christian. This isn't the norm. So it started there. It started there. And now I'm going to speak a lot about New Orleans specifically and why things are the way they are there. Because, like I said, voodoo is a worldwide religion, a worldwide practice. So we've got to kind of zoom in on New Orleans, like we did at your speakeasy, and focus on why is it like that there. What I did tell you already, those are some of the general reasons why it was maligned and demonized. But in New Orleans, and not just New Orleans, but in New Orleans, since I'm trying to focus on that, the slave masters were really forcing the Catholicism on the enslaved people that were taken from Africa and Haiti, the French West Indies, which that came later because we had a French-speaking population, which all of a sudden there was this demand for French-speaking enslaved people. So this is why in New Orleans you have the African, which definitely was there first, then the Haitian, and French West Indies Haitian, that came a little bit later. So you end up with traditions which, no matter where they came from, it was masked behind Catholicism because that's what they were allowed to practice by the slave masters. That was acceptable, that was okay. There were forced conversions. And what happened was, though, the enslaved people began to see that there were some similar images. Papa Legba is the crossroads spirit. We sung to him and drew veve, or spiritual symbols, at the speakeasy to him. People all sang together for Papa Legba. Guardian of the crossroads helps you when you're at a crossroads, helps you with communication, helps to clear obstacles. So all of a sudden they saw this image of St. Peter holding a key. And so Papa Legba got syncretized with the Catholic saint. Well, Papa Legba the spirit, Alegua the African Orisha, and Papa Legba Haitian Loa got syncretized with, among other saints, St. Peter, who holds the key. Because you got to go to Papa Legba to open the door. He's the door opener. So you see an image of St. Peter holding this key, and you realize, okay. So they created this syncretization masking system. So the beliefs were practiced, their own voodoo beliefs, their own beliefs they were taking from Africa, Haiti, these other areas, were masked under Catholicism. So the slave master would come in, see the Catholic imagery, Catholic prayers even, and they were really thinking about their own and honoring their own spirits. But over time, when this happens for decades and decades and decades, as it has in New Orleans, among other places, you end up like my godmother, Mama Lola, rest her soul. You met Mambo Brandi, her daughter, my god sister, at the speakeasy. Well, we're all baptized Catholic. Maggie is, Lola was. We're baptized Catholic. But we're also voodoo priestesses. We're mambos. We're initiated into voodoo. We love the Catholic saints and the voodoo spirits. It's a weird thing to try to explain, but you have, just like St. Peter, we love St. Peter. But we love Papa Legba and Alegua separately, but at the same time. I'm not trying to confuse anyone. I'm just trying to say, when you're doing it, it doesn't seem weird or feel weird because it's just a part of your life. But
I remember when you were talking to everyone there about the similarities and how they got synchronized, and how when some of the slaves weren't allowed to practice voodoo, they could actually do it by hiding under some of the notions that it was like Saint Peter, but actually while still using their own names to it. So that was a real eye opener there.
That was not only self-preservation, but voodoo preservation. That is how voodoo survived. It's why we still have it now, because of this ingenious practice born of horrible things. But thank God you had people who created these systems and kept this alive. So back to why is it like this? Why do people have these impressions of it? Because I've let you know how it survived. But you had, whether it was ceremony being practiced, imagery like a skull, which was there to represent the ancestors. An outsider is seeing that and they're thinking, oh, they are a death cult, or, they see something that, oh, that's about the devil, because it's outsiders looking in. So who was writing the narrative? Who was writing the books? Who was writing the newspaper articles? People from the outside looking in that did not understand what they were seeing. So they wrote the evil pot story, the sensational story, the story that would sell the most newspapers. And then moving on to when we got into television and movies, what's selling the most television programs? What's selling the most movies? The intrigue, the ooga booga. And so it just, I think you understand where it began and the natural progression to just it. As media progressed, there were more options to spread the bad word in all these other ways. Like you went from newspaper articles and books to having access to movies, television, and now social media. So it's the same tale being told, just which to a much larger audience. But on the good side, you have a world now where, because we can all communicate in this way, there's a lot more truth being shared. Those stereotypes, those misconceptions are being questioned. And there are actually people to answer those questions who know what the hell they're talking about and aren't just writing from the outside.
Yeah, we tend to demonize what we don't understand.
And we're scared of it.
We are.
We don't know about something, so whether it's a new technology, a this, or that, we want to stay in our bubble. We want to stay in our bubble, and we're if we don't understand it, it falls into the evil pot. I call it the evil pot, and we just throw it in there and back away.
Hey, I'm sorry for interrupting this podcast. I know it's a brilliant one, but I wanted to talk to you about your room, your connections. Now, we know full well that great things come from great connections and great rooms. Now, if you're in a room full of people that will challenge you, inspire you, motivate you, and support you, then great. But if not, then maybe I have the solution for you. Head on over to stevedsims.com, look up Sims Distillery there, and join our community of creative disruptors, those that are only not there to help you and motivate and actually give you information, but to support and answer questions. We very much vet the room to make sure that we support each other's growth. We all want each other to grow. So if you want to be in the right room, head on over to stevedsims.com/Sims Distillery, and I'll see you inside my room. Enjoy the rest of the show. One of the classics that you actually helped us understand and reframe was the classic doll, sticking the needles in a doll. Now, the movies have told us it does one thing. Please explain what it is actually there for.
Okay, so a doll is a tool of sympathetic magic. It's like attracting like. This goes back a long way to old clay effigies. You've seen drawing, whether it's a cave drawing or an effigy. You see, how many times have you seen a drawing with an unsuccessful hunt?
Yeah.
These drawings are about a successful hunt. Some drawings are storytelling, but a lot of them are, here's what I want to take place. So you draw that success. There's a lot of ways to do sympathetic magic. Drawings, effigies. The voodoo doll is just one of them. And I'll tell you this, just because you see a doll, it doesn't mean necessarily that is a voodoo doll being used by a voodoo practitioner. There's other practices, including black magic, which is its own thing. It's its own thing in and of itself. And that practice, it's about getting what you want with no regard for who you hurt or the consequences. Definitely not the voodoo way. Not the people I practice with, like Mambo Maddie and Ungan Jesse, and certainly not our family and society, that, our voodoo society. This is not our way. Just like, do whatever it takes to get what you want. We definitely believe in this. Let me make sure I get this. Here we go. All right, so I'm pointing out, let's say, a hex or a negative magic. How many fingers are pointing back at me?
Yeah, you got 3. Yeah.
A lot. So what you send out, you're gonna get back. So make damn sure you're sending out something good. That, back to dolls, it's kind of like, if you think about the pin, everyone wants to say, oh, you stick the pin, and then someone's got the Jimmy leg. It's like, oh, they got a broken leg. It's a problem now. And if you think about the pin as more of a spiritual acupuncture, a focusing tool. So if a friend had a really difficult relationship that they had gone through, the proverbial heartache or an actual heartache, they're about to go in for surgery, we would take a hair, a nail clipping from that individual, which contains their energy, put it into that doll, and then say certain prayers and actually see that person healing, moving on, doing well, whatever the circumstance calls for. So that pin that looks like it's just a sharp object to harm is, again, like spiritual acupuncture, just our best way to get energy into that certain area of that doll, which we baptize in a way to contain the energetic force of the individual we're trying to affect.
Yeah, it was very astonishing when you actually reframed the doll and what it was used for. And again, we've got...
Hold up. I'm not saying that people can't use dolls. I think I told you that I can use a fork to eat my squash, my whatever, my green peas, or I can stab somebody in the eye with it. A fork is a tool. A doll is a tool. Merlaton, that's what I was thinking about. I'm not interested, so I want some Merlaton. But anyway, my sister's stuffed Merlaton. You would go crazy for it, trust me. So tools. I can use tools to hunt, feed my family. I can also use them to do something awful.
Right.
So when you come to the doll and you understand that the doll is a tool that can be used for harm or good, I'm letting you know how we use them. I am not saying that tools of magic can't be used for harm, because sadly, they can. I'm also not doing a Pollyanna on this. If someone comes at me or my family, me knocking on wood.
Yeah.
There we go. They're going to get their own back. But the way I do it is I hold up like the equivalent of a mirror. So it's all I'm doing is I'm not originating the negativity or the hex. I'm doing a return to sender. So if someone sends something at me, someone I care about, whatever, it's coming back to you. And like I said, it's coming back with more power than what you sent out.
Good reframe. Good reframe. So, you said something earlier about...
we use dolls to get people... Sorry, interrupt us. Stevus, interrupt us. We're using dolls and encouraging others to use dolls to bring, get a better job, get a promotion, get justice in a court case, help things in their love life, good stuff. And when people come to us, they're like, okay, so I want this woman, another man has her, How do I get rid of him? Or I've got an awful boss. How do I get rid of them? What I try to explain to them is the magic and the nature of it, the way what you send out, you receive back. And a lot of times at a bigger strength than what you sent it out. I let them know, you think your boss is bad now. Well, go ahead, you do some kind of black magic and you do something to that boss. All of a sudden, the new boss that they got replaced with makes this other one look like Mary Poppins. Whereas if you handle it a different way, and let's just say that boss, you do some spiritual work to try to elevate that boss's spirit, then, or get them help them to move on. All of a sudden, that boss is transferred. They were probably miserable for some reason in their own life. It had nothing to do with you or with this employee. The boss moves on. You did the magic the right way. So then you might get promoted then to be the new boss, or someone else walks into that position who you actually respect and enjoy working with. It's good to do things the right way, magically in life, magically in any way, because of us getting back what we put out. It not only feels good to do the right thing, but it makes common sense because you're gonna get it back. So think about what you're sending out and how this is another thing you can really relate to entrepreneur wise, and is how you solve problems. We can't just, la la land, oh, there's no problems if we pretend they're not there. Yeah, we're all going to deal with problems. How do we deal with them? Are we coming at them with, the scalpel or the axe? How are we handling our stuff? How are we handling these issues that we call problems? And so I'm sure you encounter many of these, that people who come to you have a lot of questions. How do I handle this? How do I handle that? We get a lot of those questions spiritually and magically. And ultimately, it's the same, Steve. You handle things right with trying to think best case scenario as best you can for everyone involved. You're going to get a better result. And that's whether you're advising a colleague on how to handle their boss, just logistically, or how I'm going to advise someone to handle something spiritually and what type of magic they do. It's, what makes sense makes sense. Common sense is common sense. Whether it's, logistics, spirituality, magic, common sense is common sense.
Yeah, you hope it is, but I'm afraid that there's a lot of people out there that are, I think, getting stupider by the day.
I didn't say that common sense was common.
Yeah, was okay. Very accurate.
I said that common sense is applicable across the board, no matter the situation. What I did not say was that common sense was common at all.
That makes sense.
I'm just saying it's applicable regardless whether we're dealing with magic, someone you're counseling, in a very business setting about logistics. Common sense, if you are graced to have it, can be applied to any situation. But that doesn't make it any more, it doesn't make it any less common than it currently is. Sadly.
Yeah. Now, 20 plus years ago, you founded Voodoo Fest. I got two questions. The first one we should attack is, why? Why did you decide, hey, there should be a Voodoo Fest? I'd like to understand that.
Okay. Well, thank you for, asking me, first of all. It's something that means a lot to me and our community. And I can't say it was a decision. Well, it was a decision in that I said yes. Spirit inspired this, asked for this. wanted this for the community. Spirit plants these seeds. And loud as heck said Voodoo Fest to me. It's how I knew what to name it. It's how I knew it was supposed to be free to everyone. It's how I knew that it was supposed to include inner circle practitioners and guests, because it was like a spiritual directive on here's what we want you to do. Of course, again, it's still, you said, why to decide? And I said yes to Spirit when it came to doing this, because I really believed and still believe that, you mentioned all these misconceptions and we went into that. I can't express to you how much Voodoo Fest has helped to explain what voodoo really is and what it's not.
That was actually one of the things I wanted to pick on. You did it 20 years ago where we weren't exactly open-minded, and now you're doing it in a period. You've still been continuing it. How more open have people been to today with a Voodoo Fest?
Well, here's the wonderful thing about things that Spirit drives you to do are, I recommend saying yes, because they'll keep bugging you until you do it. But moving into what you asked, it wasn't about butts in seats, and it wasn't about, there could have been one person there, 100 people there, 0 people there. I had to do it because I had to do it. So whether you had one open-minded person, 0 people, period, it really didn't matter. And I find when things are inspired and you take that leap of faith and you say yes, even though people, let me tell you something. I had one of my friends, he produces one of the most long-standing and successful festivals in the world. And he was like, Bran, what are you thinking? What are you doing? How are you going to pay for this? What are you thinking? What are you doing? I'm like, it's inspired and I'm doing it. So he thought when he told me not to do it, because he's, Mr. Big Stuff, he just figured that was that with that. Well, when he found out a couple months later that I was doing it anyway, that he heard through the grapevine, so, oh, she's doing it, I guess I have to help. So, but, back to your question about, doing it in a time of less than, super-de-duper open-mindedness, that really didn't enter the picture or enter my mind, like, oh God, people may picket or people may freak out, or I knew what I had to do. I knew why I had to do it. And it's been, no lie, Steve, one beautiful year after the other. From its beginning to now, this year, we always do it on October 1st. So that's October 31st. That was another rule. Whether October 31st falls on a Monday or a Saturday doesn't matter. It's always done on that day. It's not, like I said, it's not about butts in seats. It's not about, well, you get more people on the weekend. It's not about that. It's about doing it, letting it hold tight to its mission. It needs to stay to its origins of why this began. And it is to honor the ancestors. First and foremost, it's like a big offering to the ancestors. It's a way for people to feel close to their own ancestors. The veil is thin that time of year. It's why Spirit asks for it during that time of year. And to showcase the immense contributions that voodoo has made to New Orleans culture and heritage. To say you're enjoying that gumbo, you're enjoying your second line, acknowledging what is African about. We hear the French Quarter and the Spanish this, and those, good Lord, I love French, I love Spanish, I love the languages, I love all that these cultures have brought to our city. The different architecture. We are really gumbo. We're a melting pot of so many cultures. But you hear so much about the French Quarter, and you don't hear a lot about the African influences. And that is something that we really try to showcase at Voodoo Fest. That a lot of the things that people love about New Orleans, are French and are Spanish, even Native American, which we also honor. At Voodoo Fest, a tradition is a Black Hawk tradition that we have here in New Orleans. I'll get into that another time. It's a whole other can of worms. We'll talk about maybe another time Mardi Gras Indians, and have a friend of mine, who's a part of that culture, the Mardi Gras Indian culture. But moving right along, don't mean to get off topic. A lot of the things that people love about New Orleans, they don't realize that, yes, there's the French, there's the Spanish, but there's the African. And some of the things where jazz music comes from, like I said, gumbo, second lines. Well, I can assure you, you're not going to find it in Paris. If you go to Benin,
yeah,
they just had their big festival in Benin, January 10th, I believe. January 10th. Voodoo was made in 1996. Voodoo was made the official religion of Benin. It's a huge deal for them over there. Huge deal for their culture. And I've been that's like an extended family I've been a part of for the last these many years, decades. And that's such a special thing for them. And when you see these ceremonies and you see, because they send me videos all the time, if they look at our second lines, they see themselves in it. And if we look at what they're doing, we see ourselves in it. So these African connections are made so clear at Voodoo Fest. We open with a ceremony. There are drummers there. There are people speaking about Marie Laveau, the great voodoo queen of New Orleans.
Yep.
People speak about how their connection to the ancestors helps them with readings, and how the ancestors literally talk through and want to help their children who are still here, through spiritual counsel, how to build altars. We have academics who are also practitioners. We have just straight up practitioners. We have people like Baba Luther Gray, who's has Bambula 2000, Sun Pi Barnes, Mambo Maggie, amazing musicians, priestesses, people who represent the Mardi Gras Indian tradition, so that there's so many secret worlds in New Orleans. Remember where we did the speakeasy? It was behind a door, and you entered a courtyard, and you went upstairs. And everywhere in New Orleans, the quarter is actually full of secrets. Courtyard after courtyard, secret door after secret door, magic garden after magic garden. You really do have, it's really a part of New Orleans. And our communities are a lot like that. They're secrets behind secrets behind secrets. And Voodoo Fest is this one day a year where everyone from the outside gets to become kind of a part of the family, whether it's what are Cajuns? What's voodoo? Who's Marie Laveau? What are Mardi Gras Indians? They get to participate in Mardi Gras Indian call and response. All of these things that they might see on YouTube or hear about, they get to be a part of not just one secret world of voodoo, but so many different parts of our culture that you really have to be in them to understand them. You can read a book, you can look on Wikipedia, you can do all those things, but that's not living it. And Voodoo Fest, you live it. You understand, you talk to, you connect with on a really personal, human, and spiritual level. So many different secret communities. Also, New Orleans, we know how to cook, okay? And all of us bring, whether it's Abdullah bringing African meat pies, Mama Maggie bringing her Haitian chicken, me making my butter beans with pickled pork and sausage. Ina covers the vegetarians. We always make sure something. I'm not gonna say it's a ton, but we make sure we take care of our vegans and our vegetarians. Unga and Jesse bringing his Cajun cooking to the table. We stay up all night long cooking our own food, putting our heart, our soul, the best ingredients, and we put all that out there. It's all free. It's all free. Nobody pays a dime, and they can pop in and then walk around the quarter, enjoy themselves, come back. We start at 1 with the opening ceremony. All day there's speakers and music, and you gotta come early for the food because after a very short time, there's not a bean left in the pot. I'm talking and jambalaya, like real jambalaya, the good stuff, cooked in a kitchen, with somebody who knows what the heck they're doing. Not like jambalaya you got in Poughkeepsie. No offense, Poughkeepsie, but I'm not going there for jambalaya. I'll go there for whatever y'all specialize in. And so tons of food. And that's the other thing about Voodoo Fest. We're serving everyone. Doesn't matter if you're a movie star, a celebrity, a school teacher, you currently, are homeless, doesn't matter. Everyone's welcome. Everyone gets fed. We all get fed together. And we get fed physically, spiritually, and it's like I say, it's not like this, it's free, so let's give everybody, like red hot dogs.
Yeah.
No. You are getting the best of what we prepare. The stuff we prepare in our homes for our families, because on that day, you are a part of the family. So you're going to get served like family. Whether it's food, the drinks, the information, we're not closing the door. You get fed in every way, intellectually, spiritually, physically. You get fed like family.
I do recall that probably one of the comments that I could say about meeting you and getting to understand a little bit, and then going over to Voodoo Authentica that we mentioned earlier, which is your store, was the sense of welcoming. So as we kind of fall to the end of this podcast, how can people find out more about you, Voodoo Fest, Voodoo Authentica? How can they find out about you and what you're up to?
Okay, well, the way we love the most is come on by. Like Voodoo Authentica of New Orleans Cultural Center and Collection. We are at 612 Rue du Maine in the Quarter. It's a nice quiet block. So you're in that heart of the quarter, but outside of the kind of hoopla. You're in the quieter part of the secret part of the quarter.
It's a beautiful area. Let's call it as it is. It's beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful, and you feel like you're in another time, you know, and when you walk in, you're going to be greeted by people who actually practice voodoo. I'm an initiated priestess. I'm a Mambo. You're going to be able to ask questions from people who truly practice, care about this practice, care about the culture, because they're a part of the culture. They're a part of the neighborhoods. You know, they're a part of all this. They're a part of this voodoo society. So that's one way, is just come on in, and any time of year. Of course, Voodoo Fest is a wonderful time to experience so much for free. And, you know, again, we don't hold captives. It goes from 1, we close with our ancestral healing ceremony at 7, where we talk to the spirits and they talk back. You shout out to your ancestors, they shout back. That's why it's so moving, that ceremony. So come in for that, awesome. Come any time of year. We're open 7 days a week, 11 to 7, and we do welcome you. We welcome questions. We don't make people feel silly for asking a question. We want you to ask the questions because we want you to take that knowledge out and share that with your family and say, oh, I learned something.
Yeah.
You know, we're not looking to convert, okay? But bridges of understanding are always a beautiful thing. People can go to voodooshop.com to experience some of the products we have to offer. We've been on the webs. We are web dinosaurs. We've been on there since, I don't know, the early 90s. It's great. Like before when people were still like, what's the web? You know, we were on there. So it's like, and when you look at our site, you'll be like, yeah, that looks like it's from the 90s, because it is. Because it is, well, okay? We like it that way. But there's also voodoofest.com.
Oh, separate site. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's not a separate site. It's kind of a page on voodooshop.com, but it does have its own domain, voodoofest.com. And also, they can just give us a call. Like, remember when you can call and talk to people on the phone? And if you call Voodoo Authentica at 504-522-2111, between 11 a.m. 7 p.m. Central Time, guess what? A human being is going to answer the phone. It's not going to be press one for Gregory, 2 for dolls. No, you're going to hear a human being, and it's someone. We also have, some people need a different kind of guidance. That's why we have like readings, you know, and spiritual cleansings.
Yeah. And
the readings are being done, again, by people who actually practice and care about what they're doing.
Well, we're going to put all of those links below. I am very proud that you came into the speakeasy. You certainly shook us up, loved us, made us feel welcome. We had immense fun having you there. But as I say, I'm going to put all of the links below. And I hope the people will understand 2 things. 1, to avoid misconception and judgment, and to understand facts. Get involved. This may not be for everyone, but it may be for someone. So don't be quick to judge, but be really quick to learn and be open-minded. But Mambo Brandi, thank you so much for coming into the New Orleans Speakeasy, and thank you for being part of this podcast.
It's been my pleasure, Steve. It's good to see you again.
Thanks. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. You know what to do. If you love it, share, subscribe, but more than anything, do something with it. And remember, life's too short to play it safe, so disrupt, connect, and grow. See you next time.